All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 426th meeting of the New York Comics and Picture Story Symposium. This is a weekly reading series, lecture series, discussion series founded over a decade ago by the cartoonist and educator Ben Catcher. This season of the symposium was co-curated by Ben, Bill Cardellopoulos, the animator Lily Carey, animator and cartoonist Lily Carey, Danny Fingeroff, and myself. And my name's Austin English. And every week we are honored to have a different guest, but we're particularly honored this week to have Yvan Alagbé as our guest. First, he's speaking to us from France, where it's very, very late. So we're very grateful for his time. He is here mainly to discuss two books of his that have come out. You know, the books that English-speaking readers would be familiar with. It's Yellow Negroes, Yellow Negroes and Other Imaginary Creatures from NYRC Books that came out about a decade ago, and the newly released Misery of Love from the same publisher. This is the edition that came out in France from Amok with a different cover. Um, I am so excited to discuss these books with Yvonne because anyone I was speaking about this before we let everyone in, but I think anyone who really loves comics and is close to them or cares about them as an art form and works with them in some way. Um, every now and then you might have a crisis of faith. I think if you're close to an art form, sometimes you wonder, oh, can it do the things that I really, especially a medium like comics that in its mature expression is often navigating itself. And if you read a lot of comics and cartooning with the hope of it as this independent art form that can stand on the stage next to other forms. I think you often might have crises of faith where you wonder if this form can express itself in getting at the complexity of day-to-day life and expressing itself in all its true colors because it is such a complicated medium to work with economically. There's certain challenges and devotion to working on comics has certain hurdles that literature, painting, and cinema it has different struggles than those mediums, and to define itself in a certain way often feels to be a struggle for the medium. I think anyone who's honest with themselves about the form encounters that from time to time or thinks about that. An antidote for that, I would say, at least for me, and if you've ever had these crises yourself, or if you're just looking for a work of comic art that really, really is transcendent, an antidote for me for that crisis would be this book, Misery of Love. Um, I found it to be it's a book that I think definitely rewards rereading. In a way, you could sit down and make it through this book in about an hour and come to an understanding of it. Um, but every new reading of it, I've in preparing for this and doing some writing about it, I've read it maybe 6 times at this point, and I still feel that I haven't scratched the surface of it. And I think Ben, this symposium's founder, really objects to the idea of pure comics. He thinks of comics as being a combination of many different traditions. And I'm very interested in works that explore the medium itself. And I would say that Misery of Love really does this, but not for purely experimental or formal reasons. The way that it is constructed, I cannot imagine seeing this work translated to another medium and having any degree of the power that it has. The way it is constructed, time moves around, images reflect upon each other. You'll start the book with one image and not understand necessarily where we are, but the authority of that image will be communicated. And then as you keep going with the imagery in the book, that initial image will gain new colors and you'll have new insights and things will change and shift. And so it does all this not for simple formal terms, but for a simple formal experiment, but it does this to get at the poetry and complexity and feeling of what is expressed in here. And it's I think, a painful work to read, an exhilarating work to read, a frustrating work to read for the emotion that it expresses. And I'd like to say that for more books, and there definitely are true works in the form that I think get to this, but this is a rare example of, I think, the best that can be expressed in this artistic medium, and even taking away that high praise, it's just a pleasure to read. So anyone who's not familiar with Alagbe's work, um, I greatly encourage them, if they have any interest in the form, to seek this work out. And what we'll be doing tonight is just a live interview with Alagbe. I'll be mainly interviewing him about these two books and asking him some specific questions. We'll do a little background before that. What I want to say to people in the audience is this is a rare opportunity to speak with an author who does not do many events for English language readers. So, in terms of comments, first thought, best thought for comments, I would maybe discourage. But for questions, first thought, best thought is more than encourage. If you have any question, even one that is maybe not so well thought out, just kind of the sketch of a question, or just any notion that you want to explore, I cannot encourage you enough to ask that question without reservation. Because this is a rare opportunity for people that are interested in Yvan's work to speak with him. So I greatly encourage you to do so. The way that you can do that is while we're speaking, you can at any time write a question into the chat. You can indicate whether you want me to call on you, and you can go on camera if you like and read your question directly to Yvan, or you can just indicate that you want me to read the question for you. So I encourage you greatly to do that. I'm going to read a brief bio here. Yvan Alagbé was born in Paris and spent 3 years of his youth in West Africa. Along with Olivier Marbeuf, he founded a contemporary visual arts review called L'Oeil Carnivore. I'm sorry, I'm butchering these non-English words. A magazine, The Headless Horse, which gained a cult following for its publication of innovative graphic art and comics, and the publishing house Amok, which drew from material serialized in Le Cheval, including the first version of Yellow Negroes, which I have right here. Um, in 2001, just admitting people here as we go. In 2001, Amok partnered with the publishing group Freon to establish the Franco-Belgian collaboration Frémok, now one of the most acclaimed European comic publishers. A log-based graphic novel, École de la Misère, uses the same characters as Yellow Negroes. And so that is this work, Misery of Love. So without further ado, I'm going to begin asking some questions here. I think as American readers or English speaking readers, even if we're familiar with the work you've done and the work a lot of the work you've done through publishing, I personally know very little about your background, and I haven't read any substantial interviews in our American comics press with you. So a lot of this information will be new to me. But can I ask, just generally early on, how you first encountered comics and cartooning, what some of your first experiences with the art form were? And I'll just ask you to unmute. There we go. Yes.
Thank you, Austin. How
Thank
can I
you.
speak after so many compliments?
I'll tone him down.
So my first experience with comics, I don't remember so much. I mean, what would be the very first thought? But I've been as a child reading comics a lot, and now I discovered that most of the comics I was reading was actually Italian comics. It's popular French comics was translated from Italian. and I would read like fake Tarzan stuff or even real Tarzan. And I would read also Frank, franco-belge, bande dessinée, Astérix, Tintin, and Lucky Luke, and that kind of stuff. And but I would say that the more intimate one would be the small Italian format that was translated to really cheap comics actually.
When
And
you,
yeah,
oh no, no, I don't want to interrupt.
and they are already that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And a lot of them will were there was in black and white and with only black ink, so very very simple. And in a way, it's very close from what I've been doing very much later.
When you were encountering these works and coming to think about becoming an artist yourself, were comics a primary when you were looking through this work when you were young? Did you imagine becoming an artist in terms of what you saw there? Were there other mediums? Was there literature or painting that when you saw those works might have, how did you, just in terms of becoming an artist in general, not just a cartoonist, what were the steps that led you to that?
It was comics.
It was
I was
comics. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I began like I was I didn't do that much as a child because as a child it's very long. It's a very long process. You will begin something and then stop. And some others have done maybe complete comics and a lot of them, but I was doing very very little. But I will do some characters, and it began with the idea. It began when you have character, because you're starting to make several drawing of them, and so there's a kind of link and there's a story that we. And so I was into comics. I'm not a musician. I was never into paintings. For a time, I wanted to I studied science, and because that was real studies. In France, you have to do mathematics to be if you're a good pupil, and if you want to do the best studies, you do mathematics.
Right.
And so I did mathematics, but I didn't want. When I started to think about being an artist, I was mainly into comics, but I also thought about working in cinema, but as a operator, is it as a chief operator to make image. But and I did I tried to enter a school to study as a yeah, as a to do photography and films, but it didn't work out. So I continue with comics.
How did the beginnings of you working with comics, how did that, can you maybe walk us through that? Like, you're saying that you didn't do full comics as a child, which of course makes sense. When you really, do you recall the moment where you felt that you're committed to this art form and this is what you're doing and this is the beginning of that moment where you're focused on what later blossoms into this? Do you recall maybe other examples of artists that you looked at and said, okay, I can, that seems like a path to go down, or I'm inspired by the career they've created, or was it something else, or was it, how was that process to begin the path that you went on?
Well, before publishing Yellow Negroes, I've been doing another book that is really, really different. My first book doesn't look at it at all, and most of the time, when some when when people read that book, they will make fun of me, and I don't. It's not really funny. It's not really nice, but it's a book I did with Olivier Marbeuf before we create Amok. So we started doing the working as publisher because we wanted to do well something different, and we wanted to be able to work with comics as you will be as you sorry to work with comics as any other art form. But Olivier Marbeuf was the one that really was into music and paintings and literature. So he did many things. But and then after we've been working with on the magazine Le Carnivore when we were students. So we were two science students, but we were mainly studying art and doing art so that's how we create a magazine, L'Œil Carnivore, and we started to use it as a space to show what we were doing, but also to discover things, to discover and to share some creations, some books, music, movies, and so on. And so I've been in touch and in contact with many art forms. But for me, I've been always doing comics. I never did paintings or music or nothing.
I think
Just comics.
if I can follow, it's, I think for American readers, we look at this and it almost suggests someone who has worked with fine art because it obviously has the principles of cartooning. I'd say more so with Yellow Negroes, but I wonder why, as you say, you were only interested in doing comics. What about what about the form for what you felt interested in expressing early on? What about it made it the clear choice?
I, I think it's simply because it was something that I can do by myself with almost nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really it's cheap and natural. I mean, nothing, almost nothing can stop you of doing what you like. So I think that was the main and the main thing, and I would say also that I've never have been comfortable with making drawings or images that will be interesting enough to stand on a wall or to be kept for, I don't know, to a door or whatever. So I never imagined myself as a painter. And that's the same for the text. And I never thought I can be like, you know, a great writer or something. But with both, I can try to maybe catch something. And it's sure that when we was at that time as young men, I think because it was in our 20s with Olivier Marbeuf and I that we were doing this magazine. Uh, oh, sorry, I forgot what I was what I've lost myself.
No, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Um, what was it about? Um,
We were talking about you choosing this, like this being the clear path, and
yes, yes, and maybe well, I don't know. I've lost myself.
well, can I also ask? We'll come back to what you're. I'm sure
Mm.
it'll resurface. Um,
It was long ago.
I I think as American readers, we it's very limited what comes over from from Europe. We don't know the full culture of what's happening in European graphic novels. So things like this come over and we kind of maybe assume that that this style of work, especially the style of work from Amok and recent translations from New York Review of Comics, like Anke Fichtenberger's work. She's not French, but works in that kind of works in the same milieu as you. I think we might have a an unrealistic opinion of that work's place in European comics culture. We think of here certain artistic artists, alternative cartoonists. We know that they have readership and they're beloved, but that they are a very their readership is much smaller than the mainstream work in our country. And I think sometimes we look at works like this and assume that this is that the work that comes from Frimac or L'Association is that it's different over there. That very progressive work like this is widely known. And so I'm kind of wondering what how you feel about because you've also worked closely with a very beloved and to me radical publishing company. Where does the work that you do and the work that you've published, how do you see it fitting in the larger scene of European cartooning? Is it kind of against the grain to you of other things that are being done there, or is there a general acceptance of works like this?
Um,
Or is it considered is work like this considered non-traditional, maybe
they
in
are not
cartooning?
traditional for sure.
Sure. Okay.
It's not so easy. It's not like Europe is the place where that kind of comics like is widely uh, read and so it has always been difficult for us to publish that kind of comics. So but but what you can do with comics or what you can consider as comics has become really wide and that's the main thing that I think that happened and so I think that kind of work kind of participates to yeah to show that the playground is bigger than expected maybe you don't have to only stick in that way but you can also you know, go other places
Well, it's
so
valuable for us
yeah,
too,
yeah.
like bringing work over. Who was the cartoonist whose name I couldn't pronounce when we were talking before? I said Vincent Fortemps, but you said it's
Ah, Vincent Fortin.
Also, yes. So when I've seen that work come over here, to me it's like a revelation. It's kind of like again like this. It's a confirmation of what I think can be done and done successfully. So in a way, it's encouraging to hear that it's similar over there. What's there's it's still pushing it's not just completely in the water over there of it's still pushing the boundaries over there. Work like his.
Yeah, because I think that you had many more also what the kind of work that can be published by bigger publisher and that can work and have a wide audience. That kind of work kind of extend also. So there are many. So something that would have looked very underground back in that time. Today it's quite common. But I think that what we try to propose with framework is something that is not related to business,
Right.
the business of comics. So yeah,
Can I ask, I would say maybe with alternative comics in the United States, there's certain figures that for us are very influential. I would say maybe even if certain alternative cartoonists aren't influenced by Robert Crumb, he looms large, or he's an example, or maybe the EC artists, or then for younger artists, someone like Dan Clowes becomes very important. Julie Doucet is very important for us. who in the milieu of Frimac or l'Association, who would be someone that's like the godfather that you guys look to? I'm just out of my own curiosity.
I cannot answer that.
Yeah.
I cannot answer for Fremok or l'association.
What about for you personally though?
Who I would I would say that I came very late to maybe alternative form. So I've been reading comics also as a teenager in French as a French teenager. I would read not only I mean I read Italian comics sooner as a child, but as a teenager I would read I would read American comics. So, and I would say that the most important, and the first important one is is someone that you really won't expect. I imagine.
Can't
Try
wait.
try to guess. Give me.
Um, the first one that was important to you, let's see. Okay. Would it be maybe is it someone that Americans would be familiar with?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, maybe someone like is it I'm just gonna try to guess something that would seem super counterintuitive. John Byrne or someone like that.
Yeah, not bad. That's a good try.
Okay. Okay, so I'm close. Let's see. Uh, I mean, Hugo Pratt feels too obvious.
There you go. He's not American.
Right, yeah, yeah. So it's an American that you're talking
We're
about.
talking
Okay.
about American comics here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of again like a counterintuitive one like John Byrne. I don't know, Keith Giffen.
No, no,
No,
I
that's all.
don't, I don't know that guy. Maybe I've read some, but
Okay. So
no, that's Frank Miller.
oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that's a better
So
choice than John Byrne.
his Daredevil stuff in the 80s was something that catch my eye as a
Mm.
as comics. Mm.
Like the Daredevil work maybe before the
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And then and then later it was the Dark Knight, the first one, of course, not all the shit that happened uh, after. But that was yeah, maybe the most influential American. I mean, at least in my youth. But that's not a figure for framework or l'association. Not for.
Oh, I love it. Now when I show free mock books to people, and they're like, "Oh, wow, this is so free of mainstream conventions." I can just say, "Yeah, it's all influenced by Frank Miller." It's yeah, that's their main. No, it makes sense. I mean, he's that work in that period is very beautiful, and a lot of people.
And even Bill Sienkiewicz, the Electra book.
Yes.
That's my teenage. So I was reading this as a teenager in France.
Well, it's been critically redeemed, the sequel, the one with all the Photoshop, the Dark Knight Returns.
I don't know that stuff. I don't want to know.
You can give it another shot. There's a lot of pleasure to be had with that one. But that's fascinating. That is, and it makes a lot of sense. Well, let's move on to discussing this work directly, Yellow Negroes and Other Imaginary Creatures. I have some images from it that I want you to respond to. But first, can I just sort of ask, this was serialized, you serialized this work. Can I just ask you where you felt artistically when this work began and when it ended, what the journey of this book was for you as an artist?
Mm, so that was actually my first book in black and white. And if you see the first pages that have been published in the first, no, not the first, but the fourth issue of our magazine, Le Cheval Sans Tête, it's completely different. It's not the page that you have in the book.
Okay.
So when you see those pages, you'll see I was trying different tools, different paper, and I was really like kind of beginning to try to learn to work in black and white. And the work of someone like Emo Baudouin was someone important, and
Okay.
and Jose Munoz, that those artists.
And you,
So maybe those one can be the equivalent of Robert Crumb or for others.
yeah, I think we are very we have there's one book of Boudon available in English, but it's what I've heard is it's not, one of his main masterpieces. So we are very
No,
ignorant of his
I
work.
don't know why they choose this one, but that's another
It's
that's
another discussion.
another point.
Yeah, we're painfully ignorant of his work here, and I know how much he looms large. So that's interesting to hear that he was a big influence on this. I wanted to ask you, I found this sequence in the book. There's a couple of sequences that I've grabbed, and I was just wondering if you can kind of provide commentary. We have this scene where we have, for those who've read the book, the character Mario is lecturing a couple here, and they're enduring what he's saying. And I feel that the expressions you have on Alain's face here, they're so like the expressions are so beautifully carried off. They're incredibly subtle. These drawings contain, I think, so much. There's so much feeling in them, but it's not oversold. It's not undersold. Um, and I think we linger. We read through this work. It's so different than what comes later with Misery of Love. We read through it with such ease, but we can linger on these faces and take so much from them. And I'm just wondering when you sat down to draw, and I think one thing that I think seems true between our cartoonists here and what you were saying is that ability to work alone and work things out and do whatever you like. I'm just imagining you working on these pages and how just the process of making this scene, how it if you do some I wonder if you do some pencils and have a certain expression and then edit it and change to get the right expression, or if it's a kind of improvisational process of getting the right phrasing of the emotional scene. I'm just kind of wondering how you built this scene in particular.
This scene, um, well, actually, the scene takes place at the place of where I was living at that time. So very much of the story is inspired of uh, real things that happened at that moment. And so this character Mario came, someone came at our place, and so I didn't intend to make a proper autobiographic work, but I did use what yeah, what was around me, what happened around me, and as I mentioned, I was really discovering the work of black and white, and so in the picture that you are showing now, um, those pictures were made with the right brush and the right paper I found, but after several try. So the first pictures I had to at the end. Um, Most of the book, most of the final book, are pages that I did in 1 month, but I redraw all the pages, almost all the pages that were published in the magazine, and so here I was beginning to find the right tool, and I wanted to have a brush that will give enough texture to each stroke, but not too much. And I wanted that you can feel things and not only see them. And yeah. And also maybe something that I would that is interesting to say, that before that work, I didn't, I never had draw black people in comics because I was mainly, copying stuff that I've already seen, and most of that, what I've read, there was no black character in the comics, and 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 I was at that time, I was into doing uh, comics drawing, which means that I was already thinking and drawing in the way that I've seen in comics. I was not as I was not aware about I was not so aware about being an artist and drawing from real life, for instance. I didn't have that habit. Uh,
Even at this point, even at the point of
yeah, maybe I had my first live drawing with a model, nude, in an academy, maybe for the first time in my life around this period.
wow, okay.
Mm.
It's that's surprising to hear, just because again, it seems I think most people that only focus on cartooning, I mean, there's so much beautiful work produced by people who don't do life drawing. That's not to me a requirement of doing great work, but this it just suggests. So to me, looking at your visual work, I just assume that there had been, yeah. I mean, that's just surprising to me to hear. It makes it even more uh, fascinating.
But maybe someday I will show you the first pages. They are very different, and they are not pretty at all. They are, you can see that I'm struggling. It's it's not easy. But when I found the yes, this paper and the brushes that were not very, it was like cheap brush, but it was the right one, and then it came out something that began to be uh, um, satisfying for me, in terms of giving you something convincing, and but with not so much yeah, not so much needs and not so much time, not so much details. So basically, I think that the idea was to make things present, and that's something that kind of lead me after, even when I came later with something different.
Well, they are. I think you said that you wanted them to be felt, and I think these panels are very felt. I'm gonna show. I thought this sequence. I would just wanted to show the audience. I thought this sequence was just so just so well carried off. Also, you come away feeling the scene as you read it, as you read the images. I do think one thing that really stands out in the book and kind of acts as a bridge to Misery of Love is this sequence, Dia. And I
Mm.
read through this sequence many, many times. I can't say that I've come to a clear understanding of everything that you're saying with this sequence. I think because it's very rich. I'm just going to read because I'm writing a review of Misery of Love where I talk about this. I'm going to read just something I wrote about this sequence. And you can tell me how far off I am or where what you're coming to with this sequence. So I'm just gonna say I read this sequence six times in one sitting, trying to do justice to the full extent of what Alagbe was getting at. Not because I found his storytelling poorly expressed or lacking, but because the intensity of his ideas and phrases, the poetry of the expression, required a kind of attention that so few comics can lay a claim to. Daya depicts Alain speaking to his sister, also an African immigrant, about their mutual death, about Alain's inability to explain to his own family, who he has left behind, his current sadness, their current sadness, the inability to live in either modern day France with its decaying but alive colonialism, or the equally dysfunctional and similarly tinged Africa he has behind. You read Drya and try to connect it to a key that will let a comfortable understanding unlock. Is it expressing regret? Is it expressing anger, passion, disappointment? Yes, no, and all these things. Within every sentence and every image, Alagbe draws sexual encounters and sketches, a tree, neither exactly lush or decaying, growing in one's mind, pain faces, indifferent faces, and on and on. The section requires so much of the reader, largely because it defies comics' need for clarity and is drawn by someone, if you look at other sequences of the book, who has the ability to express themselves with absolute clarity if necessary. I found Dia painful to read. It will make any reader of any stripe question beliefs they have, but it does so in a but does not do so in a procedural way. Instead, the assault is poetic, full of the texture of how we perceive the world, and the clenched feeling in one's heart that the sensual world often elicits. So, can I ask you how you feel about this sequence? If it was a significant section of this book. It's so different than the rest of the book, and I feel kind of informs where you go. Can you talk about your own feelings of this sequence and how it came about and what your, I read it and I can't come away with any clear, I wouldn't be able to communicate to someone this is what this sequence is about. So I'm interested to hear from you since I have you here.
But when you say sequence, do you think about the Daya story as a whole, or because it's
It's within the large narrative. I mean, it's to me it's part of the book, but it's such a break from everything else, you know? I mean, it feels like a section unto itself. I mean, it informs it's part of the narrative, but feels
it's a story that was published first as a complete story alone, as a something like we had a few we had a collection of that kind of book. The idea was to make like a short story collection, but story long enough to stand in one book. So that it was 24 pages, I think, stories. And so the story Daya exists in another version, and it was published as a book and in another version in France. And I did another this version for another book that was a box with several books. That was a limited edition, very few copies. That was done in Portugal, and then when we did republish the Yellow Negroes in the year, sorry,
what's fine.
yes, around 2012, when we republish again the book, we put this story. Oh, but maybe to put it more clear, I try to use more the same character in different stories.
Right.
So of course, when you put it together, it it can be seen as a whole. But each sequence, if you prefer, was a different project, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it feels that it could inform the
And
rest of the
in that case,
narrative.
in that case, I create this story after after talking a little bit with a taxi driver late at night. So it was a night taxi, and he didn't talk that much, but I felt I thought I felt his sadness, and I wanted to do something about that because when African leaves and come to Europe, then the others in back in the country they imagine that of course they have a lot of money, everything is doing all right, and so on. And sometimes it's not like most of the time maybe it's not like that. And I wanted to yeah I just someone that I met maybe for 10 minutes taxi ride, but I wanted to do something out of his story. And but when I begin working on the story, as the character, the feminine character is common, I thought I would do something similar to the story Yellow Negroes. So
Yeah.
the same, this to tell the story in the same way, like the same way to do the panels and discussion and so on. But
It is. Can I just
little
interject?
by little by little, I was working with that guy with his loneliness, and I thought that okay, we are not going to see a lonely guy from the outside and see him alone, but rather that I try to get inside his head and so and get his thinking. And at that time, to speak a little bit about literature, and so and that I'm not a great writer, but I was discovering the work of Faulkner of or James Joyce or uh, Toni Morrison as well, and so this idea of not telling a story but trying to write the thinking of someone and get inside the head of someone. That's why that's what I tried to do with this sequence, this story.
Yes. Well, sequence is a silly way to put it, but I
No,
it
not
is
not a serious way. No, no, not at all. And also, it's no, we can. It's not, and you can keep it. And I can add that. So I make it a second version of this story. Also because for me it was so it's still comics, but I thought it in a way of someone that will, a musician that will play again the same, so the same
the
tune.
same theme.
And so part of the text is a little bit different, and the images some are similar, but the original version has layouts, grayscale, sorry, grayscale, and it's very different from this one. But I could have done others because the idea was also to I was interested in maybe more interested in making others version to be able to work on it's not something that is done often in comics, but yeah, it's something that you do always in music that you play again the same thing, and so to tell again the same story for me can be interesting, and sometimes maybe it's more interesting to than doing another new story and always new story, but to work on the way you can tell a story. Uh, because if you tell it in a different way, you tell a different story as well.
I
Because
think
you
that
have
actually
different feelings and you share something different and you move things differently.
that illuminates a lot of it for me because I think when you read it in this collection, you're immediately, I think, trying to draw connections to the narrative that you've just read, and then this story appears, and there's slightly different. I think if you try to connect it, if I try to connect it seamlessly, which what comes before, there's a little confusion. But if I think of it instead as an exploration with different kind of colors and different kinds of emotional colors and different kinds of tones of the theme we just explored, it kind of reveals to me, it reveals like emotional undertones that were in what I had read prior to this in this book. I don't know if that's an accurate way to approach it.
Well, this idea of connecting the work and especially to have different character and to maybe sometimes have some a few events that are told in a different perspective, in a different point of view. That was something really important to me, and because because it's a way of making it real. It's different ways of making it real, to make it all again, to make it present, to make it, yeah, something not uh, um, not not something fake, not something that you do just to play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, reading this, it does feel, did this come later after doing the work was this done after the initial narrative, like the images that I showed before in Yellow
Uh,
Negroes?
this is after. This is after.
After. Did this feel like a kind of a turning point for you artistically? Because to me, if I'm looking at the work that's in Yellow Negroes and then Misery of Love, for me personally, Misery of Love kind of the promise of this book explodes in here. I mean, and this story I feel like feels like a transition. Maybe there's works that came in between that just haven't been published here that I'm not aware of. But did this sequence feel like a turning point to you?
You can say so. It's very close actually. It's that the same because École de la misère and now Misery of Love. It came out in English maybe more than 10 years ago, 10 years after being published in France. And but in France, it's something. When we did publish it, it was really something. It was already something almost old. Actually, it's a book that it's the same period. It's a book that has been rescued because it was about not to be published at all because it was not the book that I intended. It should have been longer than that. But I mentioned the paper and the importance of the paper I was using at that time. That's the same paper here and in École de la Misère. Uh, when when they stopped producing the paper, I stopped drawing, and I couldn't finish the book. And but years later, I choose to make a few pages, a few images, not so much because I was not able to do so much on a different paper. So I was able to make just a few pages more to be able to put it in a book. But that was not the book expected. It should have explored more character, not more character, but yeah, a few more elements.
Right. Well, let's begin discussing Misery of Love. And I think in terms of
And
exploring the same, you know, same themes in different ways, we have this image in Misery of Love, which recalls this image in Yellow Negroes. I kind of wanted to discuss how time works in this book. I think I've just when discussing Misery of Love with other people who've read it, time shifts around, and I think if I start, if I start reading this work, and I'm showing it to the screen right now, let me just stop my share. So, this first image I see, when I start reading it, it has a certain kind of resonance for me. Then as I go through the work, this what this image means and what every image means as I go through it. With each subsequent image, a new meaning reveals itself. So if I read just a section in isolation and then I read another one and then I refer back, it's new meanings have been applied, new feelings and new ways of thinking about what's here. And that's I think what's really incredible about the work and really unique is that that happens constantly. I don't think there's a moment where you can really catch your breath, you know. I think and so you reread it, you can read through the work prosaically very quickly, but you can really spend and I wouldn't say that there's mysteries to discover. I wouldn't say that there's hidden like tricks to understand it correctly. But in terms of the images, the sequence that you've set up here, to me, the sequence feels so alive. Like it feels like a living organism where each new image complements the rest and addresses what's to come. So I'm just very interested in how you came up with this structure. How if there was how ordered it was. And let me call up an image of it again. Where did that go? Okay. Um, just how you set up this system of things reverberating, these images reverberating with each other throughout the narrative. If it was a maybe I can say, was it a plan to begin with that you were like, this is how it's going to work. Time is going to shift and I mean, I I might be wrong, but it feels like rare that there's four images in a row that relate to the same moment. It's constantly hopping around. Maybe there's a few pages where we stay in the same scene for the same amount, but it's things are moving back and forth constantly. So I'm wondering how prearranged that was or how directed that was.
It was it just follows that what I was doing just before, and I mentioned this idea of getting inside the head of the taxi driver, and here that was basically the same idea, but um, I had this influence of the writers that work with this idea of flow of consciousness. And so with the taxi driver, I did it with images, but with also some text that is similar to the way of a writer will tell you in a novel. So basically, it was something a little maybe more traditional because I was using image and text. And in the case of École de la Misère, no, of Misery of Love, since the beginning I wanted to do the same, but without using the text. So flow of consciousness in comics, but not without the texts. I mean, except the speaking, the words, and also the words, the sentences could also be used maybe in more as a sound, also as a sound, not as a regular comics text. Like, oh, you have to have complete sentences, something, or you can use yeah, the text to tell your story. In that case, I wanted to be just to swift, just as I did with the text in Dia, but here, not with the text, but only with the picture or the the moments. And yeah, since the beginning, that's how the way to draw it emerged. With this idea that I will draw in the same way the present or the past or the thinking, the remembrance, and so on. And so, and I had to find a way to be able to do that. So with only ink and brush and paper, this paper, and and then after when you I started to think about it in terms of thinking on memories and being in the head of the characters. Then it becomes natural that you can shift from past to present because you know in everyday life we do that all the times. So for me, in a way, it can look very experimental if you compare to conventional way of telling story, but as a human experience, it's very common that you can think about yesterday or 1 year ago or 10, etc., etc., and you can also and this can be mixed in a story in a comics like this also with photography because picture photography is also important in this book, and I also wanted to the photography looks like yeah to be able to to draw everything in the same way, and I want it to be liquid. That's also why I put so much. I would put water in in, uh, in the picture compared to the other only black and radical black and white. Here you have some grayscale, just like on black and white photographs.
It does, yeah. I mean, you start reading it, and because it's all drawn, different moments in time are all drawn in the same style. It really just it flows so quickly by you as you read it. You really it begins and you careen through it. I thought
And
yes,
yeah, and you said something that is also important to me, and that I'm happy that it works a little bit, at least for you. This idea that some picture that you will need some you will need some picture you will need a little bit of time to understand what you see,
yes.
and this was also something that I tried to work on because I wanted to like the picture to be moving, still moving. So you have sometimes you have just like you have to focus, and in this case I worked in terms almost in terms of shooting. So I will shoot some picture, which means that I will do my pages like this, two pictures. Almost all the pictures, all the pages were drawn like that. But most of the time, it's not the pages that you have finally in the book. So because I edit everything and change the order, as you mentioned, some of them I've repeated in several times, or maybe draw other version as well. So there was a lot of editing, and actually I could and I thought about making a different editing for the American version, but as it was already a book that has never really finished, it was too dangerous to start working again, and then maybe today you won't be able to read it. So I thought, okay, let's publish it as it was in France, but maybe someday, because now since a few years now, but they are still they started to produce again the paper. So now
Mm.
and it was really strange for me to suddenly realize that I can do that the same picture than 20 years ago because yeah that was made 20 years ago from now. That's quite old.
For an image like this one in it, and you're talking about the paper you use. Um, it's interesting hearing that some of your influences are traditional artists like Frank Miller or traditional to an extent. For an image like this, Can I ask, do you sit down and do a pencil sketch and then put ink wash over it? I found this, there was a New York Times review of this book, and they were talking about the father character and talking about some of his failings or the things that are very questionable about what he does. And then I thought this image suggests some much darker things that goes on with this father character that the Times Review didn't mention, and it just this image itself was so there's to me something kind of sinister about this image, and but not in a cheap way, in a very kind of I just found it to be an incredible image placed within the whole narrative, and the way that the face is drawn here, I wonder if getting that this shape for the mouth, and I just wonder how if you sat down and did a pencil drawing and then did some improvisation with the ink wash, or if you're just going directly in with ink wash to create these images.
Uh, when I started to work with this with Negroes, quite quickly I stopped making sketches. I mean, maybe I can do sometime I would storyboard so imagine the pages or some images in quick sketches, but most of the time I will never make a drawing and ink it. So when I did this picture, it's yeah, you can say it's kind of improvisation, and but in this case, I wanted to have the effect of a family picture, family photograph, and yeah, and something that can be very common, and but that can look a little bit darker when you have some other information or maybe you catch some strange details or something special. And so um, yeah, so few picture photographs were very important for this project. And also, yeah, let's maybe movie as well, because I was working in a way, as I mentioned, of shooting. So trying to, catch the picture just like it was in front of me, or at least it was like in in my head. So so maybe trying to not being so close. I mean, not close at all. Actually, of trying to make a nice picture, but trying just to catch something and make it alive.
More question about Misery of Love that I'd like to ask before we have many audience questions to get to. But let me just ask, and let me just say for people who have not read the book, maybe to close your ears for a second, because I'm going to show the final image in the book, which, if you haven't read the book, might be although it's not the kind of book that can be spoiled. But I just want to show this final image to get your thoughts on it. Now, when I was writing about this book, I tried to come to my own feelings about what this final image means, and it's a rare. What I really thought was that this final image is a rare smile in the there's this. It's a different kind of emotion than we've seen in the rest of the book, and I'm wondering for you this final image, how you felt about it and what it means for you, and you don't have to say what the whole book is about and what the conclusion means, but just your feelings with this image at the it's either the final image or the second to
It's
last image. Let me
it's
see.
not exactly the final.
Yes, no, it's right. Right. There's one image after it. There's one image after it. Here I can stop the share and show it more accurately. Um,
Mm.
it's these two images that we end with. Um, can I ask you about this final page and your feelings about it and how it came to be?
Mm, well, I would say that, as I told before, that it's not exactly the book expected, and even if I don't know exactly what could have been the other book. I know that I had some other ideas of sequences. Um, but yeah, I was about to this book was about not to exist, and so in a way, um, when I intended to make it's a book as quite dramatic, you could say, but and it was like this since the beginning, but at the end, I wanted to make something. Not it's not happy ending, but I wanted to have let's kind of hope or something, something a little bit, yeah, not, well, to see that it was, I don't know, it's, yeah, I wanted to have something a little bit more positive maybe at the end or something like I just want just a smile and but the maybe you've shown this picture, which is not exactly the last one, and but the last word are ça va. The last word of the main character as ça va, and ça va it's like it's okay, and so
Yes.
it's something that you would say that it's maybe it's not okay, and you would say that it's okay, and ça va means okay, I'll do it, or I'll manage, and and of course, when you do something, when you do comics or whatever, or novel or film or on something sad or hard to stand, hard to feel, uh, it's not uh, it's not a way of it's not a question of feeling bad just to feel bad. It's maybe to feel bad, to face bad things or fears, and um, and to be able to go through it. And so maybe it's just a picture to say, okay, we'll go through, and we'll manage, we'll do it, and we yeah.
That's what I felt actually with reading it, that there's this the ending is by no means optimistic. There's real pain to the ending, but there I'm hearing an echo of myself for some reason. But there is that smile at the end really does really I don't know why that echo is happening. That smile at the end really does add a different note at the conclusion.
And what do you mean? But
I think it's sort of it's hard for me to think because are you hearing that echo? It's very strange.
I hear you.
Well, you know what? Instead of struggling to fight this echo, I'm just gonna read some of the audience Q&A here because we've had you here for an hour and 20 minutes, so I don't want to keep you too long, especially because you're staying up so late. So Jack Turnbull has a question. Jack, do you want to read this question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonjour, Yvan.
Bonjour, Jacques.
And I read Yellow Negroes like about a while ago. And, so excuse me if I don't get the details wrong. But in that story, the villain runs into the apartment of the family, and I call it the villain, essentially. He's terrifying. And I just was curious if you could talk more about that character because he is one of the scariest characters I've ever read in a comic.
It's it's a real character. So I was I took inspiration from a real person. Or although I don't know exactly if all of all of what I'm telling is true. So I imagined part of it, but but the character itself exists, and it did came to our place in
Hmm.
more or less the everything I tell in the book is about him is true, except his death. But more or less tell in the book that imagine his death as the writer of the book, like it's a good end, maybe dramatic one, and and yeah, I think most the book is I mean that's the starting point of the book. And actually, a detail I didn't mention before that when we were talking about the first pages in Le Cheval Sans Tête, so our magazine, it was a quarterly magazine. Um, it's it's at the beginning I thought about making a short story. So maybe it was like a black uh, black Christmas tale because that was taking place during the time of Christmas,
Hmm.
and so it could have been just like the maybe 15. My first idea was maybe to do a 15 or 16 or maybe 18-page story, and then after I expand everything. So the character you call the villain is it's a he was inspired by a real person, but I cannot tell which part of what he's telling is true and what part is not, and that's the deal. That's the point. I mean, that's the point. That's the point in the deal that he's trying to to make with the two other character. He's telling that he can find them papers because he has been a policeman and so on. He has been this and that, this guy and but you cannot say if it's true or not. And at a certain point in the story, you have a character that came uh, with some drawings and say, and of course it's an image of me. So the, the sequence when you see the drawing man drawing uh, the villain, but watching it live drawing. This didn't happen. So that was just an image of me making the comics, but that was about a real person.
Thank you. It's a story that really stuck with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that
and
question, Jack.
and I think that's why he has that strength. It's not because I was a good writer or good artist that creates someone. It's because it was a real person, and what the reader can feel is it's more or less maybe the what I felt about him also.
Thank you for that question, Jack. That was great. There's a question from Colleen Harris. Colleen, do you want to read this question yourself, or do you want me to read it for you? Seems like you want to read it.
Yeah, sure. Hi,
Wonderful.
hi everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Um, I wanted to ask about your just your practice of painting with ink and primarily working in black and white. You already talked a lot about how you came to that. I just wanted to know more about what you feel working in black and white allows you to express, if you ever feel the limits of black and white.
Um, for me, I don't feel the limits, and I also work as an art teacher, and and most of the time you encourage the students to try different techniques and make different things, but I must confess that myself, I'm mostly doing the same thing always trying to use the same paper and the same and sometimes different brushes and different ink, but not so much. And I like the simplicity of it and the wholeness of it. Like it's poor, and I like it like that. And but the main thing would be that you can switch so much quickly from something to another. It's like a blank space or a completely dark place can be completely different things. And 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 for me, it's fascinating to be able to do so much with so few. And so, in a way, it's much more magical and mysterious and maybe metaphysical because yeah, it doesn't. You don't have this in real life, except in your brain actually, and that's why yeah, for me it fits with this idea of being able to be in a place and then the moment after you'll be in completely another place and you don't need nothing like it's directly so you don't need you know IA to be to calculate all the different stages that you need to go from this and that you just Swift and so it's yeah I like it because it's very uh, yeah quick and powerful and poor and simple and you the same thing for it's the same thing for shape atmosphere you can really change really quickly but also it's really accurate for comics because you can go from text to image and you can uh, find some step between, but you can also like move really quickly from, and you can mix them really more easily. Sometimes you will notice in some comics, uh, especially nowadays, but even before, you want to do really nice images, and then after you say, oh yes, I have this text. Put where can I put it? And I can put it there, but I will do something with Photoshop so we still can see the picture. And for me, it doesn't work that well when you have all those details. And in black and white, it's really natural because it's the same thing. Like you're just moving your hands and making dots and lines and then something comes out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Colleen. That was a wonderful question. Auntie Emily, would you? I'm certainly not pronouncing that name correctly, but would you like to ask your question out loud, or do you want me to read it for you?
Maybe
I'll
she
I'll
left.
I'll read it. He was just here.
Uh, uh, I can.
Are you
Oh,
there? Yes, wonderful.
yes, I can read it because
Sure. Your
I
connection.
want to expand expand on it. Otherwise, I'd let you Austin read it.
Okay, yeah, for your connection is a little choppy, so I think I'll read it for you if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, you asked, Yellow Negroes and Misery of Love are connected with their stories and characters, with Misery of Love being an expansion of them. How did Misery of Love happen? Did Yellow Negroes have any story and illustration ideas that you didn't include in the Yellow Negroes comic that found their way into Misery and Love? The credit page mentions Misery and Love emerging from your and Eleanor Stein's story in Le Cheval Sans. Volume 4, Un Heritage. Can you expand on this?
Yes. So I first did a story for that was after Negroes. Part of it was inspired from stories that happened between me and my former girlfriend. For instance, you have in both books you have this father joking about, oh, how come we haven't seen your boyfriend? Is it black? Is he a Negro or what? That was a true story that happened with my girlfriend at that time, my father, my girlfriend father, and later it was not the same girlfriend, but uh, it's not the actually a real name, but Eleanor Stein. The story that is in Misery of Love comes from her. And so we first did I would say 10-page story for Le Cheval Sans Tête for the magazine. And then I wanted to expand it, especially because of the well, first I had this idea to connect the story. I mean, to use to make another to continue the story to connect actually two stories that came from two different girlfriends, and but that was my idea at that time to yeah to connect different stories to make the character exist. So when we started to make an issue of Le Cheval Sans Tête called An Heritage, uh, I had the idea to work with Eleanor Stein, and we make this 10-page story. And that was the formal, let's say the formal aspect, what all that I've been talking about this, the way, let's say mm, the vision of the vision of the way I wanted to tell the story, with this kind of drawings, swifting from present to past, and so on. What I've been telling before. It was this the yeah the will to tell the story in that way that that um, brought me to take this story, this 10-page story, and to start it something that is now maybe I don't know 200 pages book, but that could, as I mentioned before, I could have continued to expand the story because it was a way to uh, I use this wheel, this will to this storytelling and this idea of drawing that way as something to explore the links between the character. So and if you ever find the and if you are able to see the pages, they are completely different, and it's not absolutely not. It's much more shorter, and it's focused much more only on the funeral of the grandfathers. And well, I would say that it was something like you have to deal with something that is living in a way in you, like you want to tell it's something, it links with the things that are happening to you, that you kind of transform to make it maybe I won't say that you find a meaning in it, but at least you find a way to manage with maybe question you have, or maybe question you want to address to some other people's, or at least feelings and things that are bothering us or bothering me, or working and as and especially well, this story at least at that time when I was doing those stories, it was still quite new in comics to deal with that kind of family issues. And so 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 it's not I never intend, and I was not interested that much into autobiography, because I didn't want to put the focus on me as a person, but as a person actually I will put myself in every character. So I would say that everything is real, but it's not. It can put. It can be. It's just like I'm trying to be all the character in there, and and that's how it works. And it's not only a matter of working, but it's a matter of what what I was looking for.
We'll ask Auntie's follow-up question here, and I'll say this will be the second to last question unless anyone else asks a question now. It's getting much later there, so we'll do this one and another one, and if one more comes through, we'll have time for that one as well. So if you have another
Um,
question in your mind, try to get it in now.
Maybe we can speak all night, and I will be able to show you the sunrise in
Oh,
France.
well, hey, well then people have to ask more questions. We can't turn that down. That would be crazy. Um, do you plan to a follow-up question that Ante has is do you think you'll work with these characters in a third book? I mean, we have, you know, to me, these works can be experienced separately. They do build on each other, and and this idea of exploring the same characters in different tones and different modes is very interesting. Do you anticipate working with these characters again?
Uh, I do think about it sometimes, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that, especially because when I'm able to work, I can work quite fast, but I'm not so often able to work. And I have some other things in mind, but yeah, some days maybe. I was mm, when 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 Comics came with the New York Review Comics came with the idea of translating the book. I thought about making new pages, edit another version, and yeah, of course I can still imagine, because those characters they was living. Um Most of the story takes place at the end of the 90s, and of course I can do some other stories that could take place in 10, 10 years ago or today, because yeah, the character can still exist and the world that processes them still exists. Mm. And maybe one day
I'd like to ask one follow-up
I,
about that.
I still have the I still have I'll still be happy to be able to do it. Let's put it in that way. If I could, I would be happy to do so. Mm. But
I,
I
I
don't know it.
I'll ask you, you mentioned that you can't work all the time. I think there are artists in the art comic world of the US that I think sometimes produce work, and then there's years where something doesn't come out, and they're finding the time and the economic situation to be able to devote themselves to a work. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what you're working on now and how you find time to if you're saying you don't work on making comics all the time, what gets in the way, or what are other things that you pursue, or you're just your mode of because I think you look at a work like this, and to me it seems like you're devoted to working on this all the time because it's such a sophisticated work. But I wonder, oftentimes there's very sophisticated artists here that struggle to find the time to devote themselves to their work. So I'm wondering what your arrangement with working and producing books like this is. Maybe how long it took to make this.
Um, let's say that it came out maybe 14 years after being after I began
Okay.
began it. But I would say that most of it was done maybe in 2 years,
Okay.
and so that's very years after that I produced a few more pictures to be able to put it in a book. But yeah, mm, but at that time, yeah, it was done quite quickly and quite intensely. I would maybe produce for 4 5 page every day.
Oh wow. Okay. What are you working
So
on now?
that, that's a big loss because they stopped producing the paper.
Oh,
I could have continued.
well, that's a very special paper. It's come up many times. Are you are you working on a new is now do you have access to the paper again? Are you working on an
I have access to the paper again, but the funny thing is that I'm not using it anymore.
Hmm,
Except when I tried maybe 1 year ago, or was it 2 years ago, I tried to make new pages for École de la Misère, and the pages actually looks okay. I mean, they could have fit perfectly, but it it would have been too complicated and too long to work again and start again to put myself in this project and produce maybe 100 or 200 pages more, and that was too difficult. And right now I'm not drawing that much. I was I spent a lot of time with Italian comics. So the one I mentioned as my children readings, but not exactly those one actually, because now I'm into like adult Italian popular comics of late 60s and 70s and 80s. And I'm since a few years now, I have this idea of studying them as a scholar, like to go back to university
hmm.
and work on this because it's really interesting uh, production and very unknown and because it's like it's really bad comics. I mean, comics has been now acknowledged as a form of art and like something like that can have a kind of noblesse. Uh, but this was made by rejecting that kind of stuff because like this is like comics that you don't want to hear about now because it's like really cheap and bad and like industrial and but Italy has very was really important in the history of comics, and I think that yeah, I'm into studying that kind of stuff. And most of the project I've been working on since years now are more or less related to that. So sometime I made, but I would, it's not something that's, it's even more confidential than that what Femok is doing. But I made that kind of dirty comics when I have time, and I want to do some projects in that way, but not with the same kind of stories.
Okay.
And it's very interesting for me because most of it, not all, but most of it, I mean, almost all of it is black and white and like with no grayscale. And most of it is also with brush. And as it was something made really quickly and just for money, just to entertain and for uh, to appeal to sexual desire of men or women. Uh, it has something that is quite interesting for me, and I'm yeah working on trying to make something mm, different out of it, but keeping this always the same thing in a way, like this energy of something maybe really quick and lively, and so there's something wild in it that I'm interested in. And
That
so
sounds
I have the idea of making like some thing you so small formats and quick drawings.
That sounds incredible. It actually leads really well into what we can, the final question I can ask you. People were, when you were saying, when I was trying to guess who your American influence is, a lot of people threw out guesses in the chat, and they didn't just list Americans, but I can ask you your opinion to leave on these three artists. One of them, an Italian cartoonist. So Jack Kirby, Barry Windsor Smith, and Guido Crepax were guesses people throw
Like
out.
we do. Well, you can also mention Hugo Pratt
Someone
and
mentioned
yes,
Pratt, yes.
there, there are they are important to me, and but the fumettis, the Italian popular comics that I'm talking about are just related to that. Like that's the nice part of it, the arty part of it, but it's the same plant. It's another branch
Right.
of the same tree. And Kirby, he was uh, he was present. He was present, but he had something strange that you don't really get when you're too young. Anyway, I actually I
Yes.
didn't get it. I find it a little bit strange sometimes, but you can recognize it, and you can. It was really, really powerful, and of course I tried to look at him in a different way when I was older. But
Yeah.
I read it as a teenager as well, like or as a child also. And
I think
I,
for
it's one of the artists I would be able to identify. Like it's something that you know you don't have it as a child like this. It comes with time, and you say, oh, this guy is special. So and which one? And Barry Windsor Smith, I like it. I like him very much because I've been a reader of Conan the Barbarian as well as a young teenager, not not at the end of my teenage, but at the beginning.
last year you were.
And that's not that's a detail, but that's I think meaningful detail in a way because I remember perfectly that Barry Winston Smith Conan he had teeth, and you know Tarzan and all those barbarian those they don't have teeth in comics, you know, because of they don't want to them to be too sexual. I don't know, too sexy. But this Conan, he had tits. This is something that I remember perfectly.
Yeah, they're hard to forget.
And I like him. He was like that was of course I've lost my interest in this of course, but let's say I went away from that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was something that that was an artist that I liked as a teenager. He was really smart, elegant. He was, I like him.
Well, I think an appreciation of
I'm sorry, I've lost all my credibility as European comic art experimental artist. Uh,
it's great. It's great because now I get to go.
I don't have so much chances to to mention them actually. So why not?
I think it's great because this week I can go back and read a bunch of Frank Miller comics and Barry Windsor Smith comics and feel really good about it, which
Yeah, yeah.
and
But
it's
at some time I quit. I stopped.
there's someone has one question and let's leave with this because I it's so late
Okay.
there, but we'll end with this question because someone got it in right in time. Wayne Coe asks, Frank Miller seems to engage in the violent male revenge narratives, colonial male archetypes like Batman. Your comics seem utterly post-colonial, soft, poetic, expansive. So Miller's narrative, conservative, seems unrelated thematically to your work. Do you think about these themes?
I mean, of course it is. I mean, it's completely the. Um, I mean, it's the opposite of what he's doing. Obviously, that's why I think it's funny to mention it. I mean, it's just being a matter of being honest. But hmm, um,
Maybe it's easier to enjoy.
I think sometimes he had at a certain moment he became he made something he made books that I won't be able anymore to read now. I mean I'm not interested at all. I mean
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. But um, I would say that in arts it's a space where you can get close to something that actually you're really different about. Like it's not you at all. And and in real life, most of the time, you cannot be. And I won't stand. I won't speak. That I'm not interested in people that have his idea. But at a certain point in certain work, he did he did yeah you can be interested in reading some someone that you don't have the same idea, you don't share nothing with him, but that's the space where you can still share something in a way. And I would say also that well, the interesting part in Frank Miller it is at a certain point he was an American artist working in comics industry like with something really traditional and he came with something different and he developed even before it became like fashionable and you know with Watchmen and Alan Moore, and all that happened at a certain moment that changed American comics. And
Yes.
but even before, so the Daredevil stories that I was reading at the time, he had something different, especially because he was an American artist working in that industry, but he knew about European comics and he knew about manga. and a lot before many people, and so he was able to do something that was interesting enough to catch my attention as a teenager with something, yeah, that, yeah, interesting enough for me to learn about in a way, maybe.
It's
And my very to finish with this, my very first complete comics that was intended to be published, and this one, the first work that I've sent to publisher. So I think I was about 18. Uh, it was really influenced by the Dark Knights, the first Dark Knight, the Frank Miller Dark Knights, and I knew it, and and when I be just like the one before, when I begin my story as a child, I will stop after 3 pages, and maybe in that case, I had 10 pages. I didn't like it anymore, but that was the turning point where I started to say, okay, I want to do comics, I want to do books. So this one, maybe I don't like it anymore, but I will finish it. So I finished the work. So at that time, there was sketches and ink and lettering. So that was a lot of work. And that was my first complete work, complete story that I sent to
mm.
it was like, yeah, a lot of influence from Dark Knight, especially in the way to use the television in the storytelling.
Well, we should, the next season of the symposium or some curator should bring you guys in conversation. That would be a dream. It would actually, I say that seriously. That would be very beautiful. And someone in the comments has says, Yvan Alagbe to draw Conan and Daredevil soon. That would be
That would be an idea, but nowadays I would be like I was um, speaking about Italian comics. I could be into drawing Diabolic or Cannibal.
ah yeah.
But
There's
doubt, I mean, if Marvel can offer me a contract to draw one shot out of it, why not?
that would be incredible.
Share the world. The world is crazy now, so why not make crazy stuff?
That yeah. Let's hope it happens. But a conversation with you and Frank Miller
That's the secret.
that could be special. But
Thank
I
you
want
for
to
the secret.
I want to thank you so much for your time, and it must be close to 2 a.m. there in France. So we
It's
are
exactly 3 a.m.
3
5
a.m. Okay.
3 a.m.
Well, we are so grateful for your time, and this was beautiful. And I encourage anyone who hasn't read these works to seek them out and experience them for the first time. And if you've read them before, read them again after having listened to this talk. Thank you again, Yvonne. Thank you to everyone in our audience. And next week, for fans of the symposium, we will have Fahmi Reza, a Malaysian cartoonist, in conversation. That'll be at the same time, same way to register and all that. Thank you so much, Yvonne, and thank you so much to our audience. Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone. Good night.
Bye.